Hello dear friends, and welcome to the first lesson in the writing section in the new SAT series. Today we will talk about one of the most important questions and rules that we will have in the writing section, which is subject-verb agreement. As everybody knows, in English language, the singular subjects take singular verbs and plural subjects take plural verbs. For example, when I say John, John is a singular subject. This means that I have to say John plays football or John has a car. I don't say play, I say plays. I have to put the S, which refers to singular verbs. At the same time, for has, I give it for singular, he, she, it, rather than have, that goes for I, you, we, and they. Another example about the plural, which is they. When I say they, I have to give a plural verb. For example, I say they help their mother. I don't say they helps, I say they help, because they is a subject which is plural and it refers to the verb which is play rather than plays. Another example about the plural thing is this. They have a car. I don't say they has a car. Rather, I say they have, because they is a plural verb and it takes have rather than has. What we have seen before is quite easy, isn't it? However, the questions in the exam won't be that easy. Although we understand the very simple thing, the examples will show that it's really tricky just to have such a question in the exam. And you have to notice that you have to read all of the options and try just to find the real subject and the real verb, as the following example.
In this example, we have to choose between A, it has, B, they have, C, one has, D, it has. As you can see, the answers A, C, and D refer to something singular, while B refers to something plural. At the beginning, we look and we see that the other thing, we think that it's something singular, so we say it has and we accept it as A. But in reality, we have just to go to the previous sentence, or two sentences before actually. If you read at the beginning, it says, the scams come in many forms, but one thing they have in common is the promise of thousands of dollars per week, etc. The other thing, if you get back to our sentence, we see here, the other thing. So again, I'm talking about something plural, so I say they have. So the answer should be B rather than A.
Of course, each rule has some exceptions, and the subject-verb agreement has many exceptions. We will talk about the most important ones here. The first one is this. Usually, with the subject-verb agreement, I take singular subject for singular verb, but this doesn't work when I have every or each in any subject. For example, when I say every student, here every student refers, semantically speaking, to something plural, but in reality, in grammar, it refers to something singular. So I say every student has to take good marks rather than have. At the same time, it might be tricky just to say that you have and, as in the following example. When I say every teacher and student has to be on time, I don't say have, although I have and. So remember, whenever you have every or each, the verb will be always singular, no matter how many subjects you have, even if they are plural. The second exception that we will talk about is either or and neither nor. In this case, actually, we have two subjects, and sometimes we might be confused which subject should take the verb. In reality, the subject comes to the nearest, the verb comes to the nearest subject. For example, when I say, neither my friends nor my sister have or has a car, of course I have to choose has. because the nearest subject to the verb is my sister, which is singular. The opposite thing comes like this. When I say, neither my sister nor my friends have a car, not has a car, as my friends are plural and they are nearer to the verb have rather than my sister. The last exception that we'll have for today is the of clause. As you know that the of clause has a noun before and a noun after, and we have to make the balance and to know which is the real subject. To tell you the truth, in general, we look just before the of rather than after it. For example, when I say the questions of the exam, I say are rather than is, because the subject is the questions, not the exam. However, this exception itself has some exceptions. For example, when I have these three words, most, all, or some, I don't look before the of, rather I look after it to decide whether the subject is singular or plural. For example, I say all of the book is nice. I don't say are nice. At the same time, I can have another example, which is all of the books are sold in the fair. Here, the books decide which is the verb, whether to be is or are. Finally, I say to you, study well for the exam and try to understand the following examples that we will have. See you, goodbye.
In this example, we have to choose the correct subject. As you can see here, we have we strive, they strive, it strives, or he or she strives. Well, according to this, we have just to look at the subject which is before it, or that the pronoun refers to. So we read the sentence before, and we see, it is rare today for a novelist to attempt to ask, what does it mean? So here, the word that the pronoun, whether we, they, it, or he or she refers to, is the novelist. Of course, novelist is singular, so we don't take A or B. Now for C, of course, is not acceptable because a novelist is a person, not a non-human to give it. The best thing is to say D, he or she, as a novelist could be a male or a female as well. In this example, we have to choose between A had now began, B has now began, C has now begun, D have now begun. At the beginning, we have to know that we have one past, three present or present perfect, and for the present perfect I have two singular and one plural. Let's start choosing these things. Actually, for A and B, we never take them as we have the verb with the second participle rather than the past participle, or the second verb, which is began rather than begun. So we cancel A and B. Concerning C and D, we have to choose whether it's singular or plural. Here we have just to get back to this sentence, and we see that the subject here is the world. The world is singular, so it takes has now begun rather than have now begun. So the answer is C. In the following example here, we have to choose between A, caused, which is in the past simple, B, had caused, which is past perfect, C, have been causing, which is present perfect continuous, or D, caused, which is present simple. To tell the truth, with these passages in general, we try to take the subject, we try to take past simple or present simple, which means that I cancel B and C. Now I have to look at the sentence and find whether they use the present simple or the past simple. If you can see here, the next sentence says the result is. So they are using the present. This means that D will be the correct answer. In this example, I have the choices grow, grows, have grown, were growing. There is something in common between A, C, and D, which is that all of them are plural while B is singular. If we read this sentence, we find that they say the global sense of shared understanding and cultural appreciation. Now, of course, we talked about the idea of clause. we just look before the of rather than after it. Of course, we have some other exceptions, but we look before it, and before it we have the global sense. Of course, the global sense is singular, so it takes B, not A, not C, and not D. As you can see in the example that we have here, we have to choose between is, are, was, or were. Well, at the beginning, somebody might look at refinement and says that it's something singular, so it takes is or was. But in reality, if we read all of the sentence, we can find that it says, even in its antiquity, its subtle beauty and architectural refinement. So I have two things here, and I have and that makes things plural. So the answer should be plural rather than singular. So I have to choose between B and D, and I have to cancel A and C. At the same time, I try just to read the passage in general, and I find whether they talk about something in the past or the present. As you can see in the sentence before or the sentence after, they use the present. This means that B will be the correct answer.